Hey everyone, how's it going? My name's Tom Froese. I'm an illustrator and a top teacher on Skillshare, where I've helped tens of thousands of students unlock the world of commercial illustration. Welcome to the channel. So today I'm going to do something a little different, and this one will be kind of unscripted, off the cuff, because I'm going through a style crisis right now. And I think it's important to share this because I know a lot of the people who watch this channel are beginners. They're wondering questions like, how do you find your style? They're wondering, what's it like being a professional illustrator? How do you even feel in terms of your confidence level as you make your work? And I believe that if you're anything like I've been over the years, is that you suspect that you're the only person who really struggles to figure out how you make your art. When you look at other people that you admire, you look at their work, you think, man, they have so much confidence. It must be so easy for them. Well, today I'm experiencing the feeling like my style just is like I'm kind of sick of it, tired of it. And in another sense, I'm like trying to work with it and it's not coming to me. I feel like it's just boring, and I can't find my groove. And I can't give you specifics because I'm working on a project right now that's it's in development. It's with a bigger client, and there's going to be lots of non-disclosure type things about it. So hopefully I'll be able to share more about the actual project later. Let me just say that the overall project is I'm making illustrations for these little animations, and the animations are supposed to be sort of picture book influenced, but it's not a picture book, and it's not for kids. It's just supposed to have that feeling. It's more kind of like for a tech client and to communicate about their some services that they offer, basically. And it's sort of this interesting, like it's going to be inspired by kids' books, and it's supposed to feel fun and jovial, but at the same time, it's like actually just telling this story about this thing that we're doing with our company for the greater good kind of thing. So anyway, that's the project. All in all, it seems like a really exciting brief. It seems like I can have some fun, and since it can be childlike, it actually makes a project for an otherwise kind of bland corporate feeling kind of project kind of fun. I'm excited about it. So I feel like I know what my style is. I feel like I know how I make what I make. I feel like I've got it all buttoned down. I have a thing. I have a style. And for a long time, I've been feeling kind of good about that. But sometimes there comes a point when you question what you're doing with your style, and you wonder if you're just stagnant in it, if you're not growing, or if you're just frankly bored of it. And you'll actually see throughout my work a constant evolution. I'm always just moving a few levers this way and that to not fully depart from what I was doing before, but it just evolves. It evolves along with me. It evolves with my sensibility. And this is kind of an interesting side note, but as a teacher, when I create an illustration project in my classes, the way that I teach reveals how I do everything, and invariably pieces of my style get built into what I'm teaching. And it's inevitable that a lot of student work ends up looking a little bit like what I do. And in that process, I lose my sense of self. I lose my sense of uniqueness. And I'm 100% okay with that. I actually did a talk at Skillshare in New York a few years ago and made that very point, that that's how I teach. I have to reveal my secret sauce in order to be a good teacher, because that's what people want to know. And that's the closest thing to me. And therefore the thing that I'm the most expert on, I'm the biggest expert on what I do. And I can only teach what I do, right? I can't teach what other people do. And the kind of moral of the story is that the secret sauce isn't what I do. It's not some trick I know in Photoshop, or even how I draw a nose or an eye. The secret sauce is me. It's my perspective that I bring. It's the ability to constantly bring new perspective to what I'm doing, and to let that shine in the artwork that I'm making. There's what I do in terms of my style, say, and then there's what a client comes to me. They come to me with a project, with a brief, with a with a need, and then it's not just enough for me to reiterate the same formula that I've been using before for this client. I have to rethink my old formulas in the context of what the client's asking for. And in that way, I'm constantly making work that's both mine and has my voice and also has it has something about the client in it as well, and that's how new things are made. I'm kind of working on a piece that I'm writing, and maybe it will become a video as well, where we have this, we'll put it this way, commercial art is an oxymoron, and it's oxymoronic or paradoxical in its nature and what we do, because we as established illustrators have a repertoire, we have a portfolio, we have a style, we have a product, we have a way of doing something that clients see and they want. This is the familiar. And then they also have a unique need, and they want something that's just for them, and that's something novel. So we have this thing that they want that is familiar, but they also want it to be novel. And this is at the heart of so much of the struggle of commercial illustrators, is how do we balance this thing that we know we're good at, this thing that is based in our experience, our style, our tools, our techniques, all these things that we know, our abilities, the things we like, our taste, and all those things. How do we take these things, package them up in a way that works with the new problem or the new need of a client in a way that's just for them? And if a client doesn't see both those things in what we're doing for them, I think that they'll they'll be disappointed, or they'll panic, or they'll lose trust in us. And so if a client sees the thing that we're making for them and it doesn't align up to what they thought we were going to do, they had some preconceived notion of what we would do, and rightfully so, because that's how we sell ourselves as illustrators, is on our past work. They had a preconceived notion that Tom would, in my case, that Tom Froese would make an illustration with people with pointy noses and big bulgy eyes, or whatever it is, however people want to describe my work. They see that and they expect it. So if I draw things completely differently, they're going to be like, where did that come from? I didn't want your an illustration in the style of Garfield or The Simpsons or in Christian Robinson or something like that. But if they see something if I do make them something that looks totally familiar, they're going to say, well, you already did that for Yahoo. You already did that for Airbnb. It looks the same. What I need to be different. I need to be applied to my situation and have my colors or whatever it is. So I digress. This is a side note, that tension between creating something that's both familiar and novel or new for our clients. But the client's not the only one who's going to be picky about our style or about what we're making. Sometimes it's us. And so I feel like right now, this project that I'm working on, I could enter into it, using the old tricks that I know I can do, and the client will probably accept it. They'll probably be okay with it. And in this case, they've even given me sketches to work from. So it's kind of a no-brainer. I just draw what they gave to me in the way that I would do it. And I have that formula already. I do it all the time. So I'm getting stuck here. Why don't I just do that? I think one of the things that I'm encountering is a fear of regret. Now, I've said this before, and you might be surprised to know that I regret almost every illustration I make. There's something about it that I think, in retrospect, that I could have done better. There's always something that I'm like, I don't know. Why do people, it goes right down to the very bottom of my insecurities. And I'm like, why do people even hire me? How did I get this far in my career as an illustrator? And so there's that constant self-criticism. I always am running away from that. I'm running away from, as I'm illustrating everything, I'm like, let's not make those same mistakes again. Let's not be haunted by the last illustration I made this time. Let's not regret it this time. And I'm trying to chase this hope of feeling finally good about everything. I can think of 1,000 examples of work that I now just think I really hate how I did that part of that illustration. Overall, I like it. I'm overall proud of it, but I wish I didn't do it that way. And I can't even name the projects right now, because if for whatever reason a client is watching and they hear me talking about their project in this way, that I'm regretting the baby I made for them, so to speak, maybe they'll regret it too. And I don't want them to do that, because again, this is a little bit of a digression here. I can at the same time be self-critical, highly self-critical, overly self-critical about my own work, but still stand behind it as the best I could have done for my client at the time. And that's actually 100% true. And that's the only reason I can live with my art and put it on my Instagram for you to share it, is that like, I know that it made the client happy. I know that it satisfied the need, that it solved the problem. And I also am encouraged, generally speaking, that over time, I keep getting towards something closer to what I like. My style, I feel, is evolving for the better. I like the direction it's going. But the hard thing to accept about that progress is that if what I made today is better than yesterday, and what I made yesterday is better than the day before, then the stuff that I made 2 weeks ago really sucked. And that means 2 weeks later, going by this time scale, what I made today will 100% suck to me later. And that's just it's something I try not to think too hard about. But right now, as I'm trying to make this project something that I'm happy with and something my client's happy with, I'm getting stuck on this fear of regret. And I think that might be the biggest thing that's getting me stuck. I'm trying to think what else might be bothering me about how I'm going about this right now. I guess maybe it's like I want it to be more than what I'm imagining it to be, but I don't know how to describe that more. I don't know exactly what it is. So it's like I have a very vague and blurry target, and I'm trying to aim for it precisely, but I can't do that. I'm setting up myself up for personal failure here, because I feel like this has to be really good. This has to be the best work I've ever done. What does that look like? What does that mean? And my mind starts going to other people's styles that I'm trying to push mine toward, and not liking mine in comparison to it. And this is a lie that I'm calling myself out on right now. And that is, I don't have those other people's styles. That's theirs. I have what I do. That's mine. And over the years, I've developed it and evolved it to where it is today, not arbitrarily, but based on what I'm actually good at and what comes out of me naturally. And I've been paying attention closely to what that is and steering it as best as I can. But there's a large part of it that I can't control, and that's just like the way things come out for me, and the way they don't come out in the way that someone else does it. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. I think a big thing that we get stuck in our style when we're doubting ourselves is that we feel like what we're making isn't as good as the stuff we love about other people's work, but it extends past that to it doesn't look like it. And so that's one thing I have to call myself out on here, is like I'm not going to be able to really break the mold here. This is me. This is who I am, and my mannerisms, my style, the way things look in my art are the way they look. So another thing that maybe I'm encountering right now, and this is a bit of, I'm trying to troubleshoot my problem here in front of you guys. Another thing that might be happening is that I'm resisting doing some kind of back work, like first steps, laying down some kind of foundation first. And I'm trying to jump too far into the actual illustration process, too advanced of a step. And usually in my process, almost all the time, I go through a fairly predictable routine where after I get a job, the first thing that I do is I do what it's called the understanding stage. So I do what I can to just totally understand my subject. And that means reading the brief, reading through what the client wants and all that kind of thing. But then going out and doing my own research. And that means mostly looking for images that will give me some cues and clues of what my subject matter will be doing. It's not that I'm drawing directly from references, but it's more like, what is in this particular job, I'm going to be drawing someone eating cereal. Like and it's like more specific than that, but what does it look like for such and such a kind of person to be eating cereal? What does their space look like? What does the cereal look like? What are the hand positions? And then once I collect all those kinds of visual resources, the next step is to draw from those reference images, not to illustrate, not to have ideas, but to just get a sense of like, it makes me more confident when I draw these things in a more sort of direct, from observation way. And if you've taken my class Drawing Toward Illustration, you'll know that I do this and I call this O-mode illustrations. And then O-mode sketches, I should say. And then once I do that from all my references, then I've built up this repertoire of visual information. It's in my head now. Then I can put my references away and draw more from imagination and use that information to draw those people or those scenarios or those scenes in any way I want, because I can play around with it more because it's kind of floating around in my imagination. Whereas before I might have only had a very limited sense of, again, like if I'm drawing someone eating a bowl of cereal, I could draw it from imagination, no problem, but it might be missing some subtle character or personality or nuance that I picked up in the process of drawing from observation from these sketches. Suddenly I have a little bit more information about like, how are the fingers curling around the spoon, and like, what about the perspective of the bowl? Like, what does that look like? And then I can interpret that factual information through my stylistic approach and spit it out the other side in a more interpreted way. And so all this to say, I'm possibly avoiding doing some of that digging because I know my deadline is on Wednesday for my sketches. So that's in 2 days from now. Often when I get stuck on something, whether it's writing a class or trying to come up with ideas in my sketches, when I realize I'm struggling and getting stuck, I'm getting creative block, I step back and I say, is there anything that I'm avoiding? Is there anything that I'm trying not to do? Are there steps that I'm skipping on purpose or maybe not on purpose? And right now, the step that I'm skipping the most is drawing in O mode, observational mode, for each of the different things that I'm supposed to illustrate in this project. So yeah, I think that's a big part of what's going on today. But I mean, how does this translate to a style crisis? The question I'm having now is this avoidance of the extra work part of my style crisis? Is it just that is it more a matter of like, not my style, but of like composition and content, because I don't have enough visual information to work with? Maybe I need to draw more from, I need to gather some reference images for all the different things that I need to illustrate, and then just spend half a day drawing from those. And in that way, I'll load up with more imaginative information and use that. That might be what I'm getting stuck on. It might not be about my style at all. But I think it's also just like, it's a kind of a cool opportunity for me. I feel like I can do a little bit more than what I've done before in terms of approach and really play up that kids book element for this particular project. And so I am also just getting stuck on what can I do that's just a little bit different, a little more special, and actually push my style more. Like, how can I actually grow? So I am putting pressure on myself to grow creatively in the midst of this project. And I think that's a good thing. But it's also putting a lot of pressure on me, to really like reinvent my own process in a way, while I'm also trying to satisfy a client on a deadline. So maybe I need to set aside my grand aspirations of breaking my stylistic mold or doing something totally different right now, and just letting it be what it is for now, and perhaps spending time on my own to develop that. Take the pressure off myself from trying to do two big things, brand new, crazy new style, and also, satisfy the client and get, make it worth their investment. I think I need to just focus on doing a good job for my client and forget about it being great or different or novel or whatever. What happens on that end of things will happen. I hope for the best, but my focus should be on just delivering on what they expect according to the brief and according to the product that I deliver. That's the familiarity part and the novelty part there. Not a new style, but just a new interpretation of my style and of their problem, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I really get in my head where it comes to stuff like this sometimes, but I'm finding it helpful to talk it out. And I mean, my bigger point here for sharing again is because I want to let you in on what happens in my head. Like, I'm a professional illustrator, been doing this freelance since 2014, I guess. And I mean, I've been illustrating and designing for much longer, but all this to say, I'm, here I am all these years later, struggling with my style. Happens to everyone. And I'd actually really be curious, like, if there are any established illustrators watching this, how often you come against your own self-doubts in this way, how often you question your style, especially if you have an established style that you're known for. How do you keep yourself on track without diverting too much from it, so that you don't, totally break your machine that you've developed. I really believe that having a style and developing it is a conscious decision we make. It's saying, I won't do these other things. This is what I'm going to focus on, not because we can't do those other things, but we know that this one thing works. And up to now, it's working in a way that's making us happy and our clients happy. And it's the best we can do, given that we're always on a deadline. We can't always be trying new things. That's what a style does. It solves the problem of, what does your illustration look like when you make it. I talk about this in my class on Skillshare called the Style Class. And so I should be an expert on this. Oh yeah. Okay. So there's one more thing that I wanted to add as a reason that I'm probably struggling with my style today. And that's because, like, I haven't been illustrating a ton lately. It's been mostly writing in the last month or so. And I think I'm just a little bit out of practice. There's some cobwebs that I need to clear out. And that just kind of will take some time. And, truthfully, I just started working on this project about 3 or 4 hours ago. It hasn't been that long. And maybe I'm just being impatient with myself, because my assumption when I took this project on was that it would be a cinch. And projects are never a cinch, especially when you're actually trying, because you're thinking about, okay, I did this before, but how can I really do something like unique for this client? And so I think I'm just encountering that part of my project where I think I have my assumptions, and I'm realizing that my assumptions aren't working exactly the way I thought. And that shouldn't be a surprise. Now that I'm seeing what I'm making and feeling kind of like, I need to do something more. I need to add something extra to this. I need to spend more time on this. It's like, oh yeah, of course. I always have to spend a lot longer on this job, on jobs than I expect. That's just the way it always is. So I do need to be patient with myself and remember that, there's no such thing as an easy job. Anyway, a little bit rambly today, a little bit from the cuff, a lot from the cuff, but I appreciate you guys watching. If you found this helpful, please let me know, and let me know in the comments, again, what kind of struggles you guys have when it comes to style, and if you relate to anything that I'm saying. I'd love to hear from you. I love reading your comments, and I guess that's all for now. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.